to police in relation to a graft case. So we will be looking at what really is happening. Is it, as has been said before, that the DPP is playing to the public gallery, or really are we going to be seeing prosecutions from what is happening?
To work together for the common good of this nation.
Okay.
So that political goodwill is in place. What is now lacking is now the impetus to quicken the pace of fighting graft.
Which is the judiciary.
Yes, and if I talk slightly about the Roar Dam, this is a very complex matter because firstly, this is that attracted, international commercial borrowing. It calls for an investigation must be shared with the people from this side of the world. You remember that what was adduced before court was a 45,000-paged petition.
Yes.
Yeah, 45,000 is a lot of documents.
Yes.
And I want to believe that those 45,000 are not just mere papers, but they will lead to conviction.
Okay.
This idea, or rather the issue about Kimorera and the Roar Dam came a little earlier. And then there was a lull, and Kenyans started losing interest, just like we lose interest in other cases, only to realize the inherent complexities around this case, that therefore occasioned, shuttling between Kenya and Italy, US, UK. And when he came back from the UK, I think on a better note, he pumped on them, and they now have a matter or a case to answer, in court.
Right.
So the political goodwill must continue. The moment Uhuru Kenyatta will step back, then that will mark the death of this, what we are seeing.
Secretary, who we've actually seen, arrested into court, taken from the public office.
When the president addressed the nation a few months ago, he was only going to do it, and of course that has had to do anything outside of being replaced. The issues and make interpretation political. Everything is about yes. So international organization. It's very difficult for the machineries of this country to actually recover that money. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. That's why before we started the show I said sometimes it's easier to get people to return that money. It's like in finance, the materiality of something, you're trying to go after $1 billion, Bob, and you spend 5 billion. So it doesn't make sense to sometimes to even think about how to do that.
All right, if we look at this particular case and the fact that we've seen the CS, the PS, everyone, KVDA, over at least 20 people being netted in this particular case. Is it likely to yield much? Because there's always been the
believe that the judiciary can do this. Yeah. If we've had the election cases being had until something like 8 p.m., this thing should be treated as a national interest case, that it should be expedited before anybody is approached and bribed. So that at the end of it all, we don't have people who basically, because in publicity, negative or positive publicity is publicity. We might think that we are saying that this person is a thief, and at home we're giving him mileage. He won't even campaign again because you've already campaigned for him.
Alex, that brings us to the question of what does it say about us as society? Picking up from what Mustafa is saying, because that's how it always ends up. You're dragged, your name is dragged in the mud, then the next thing you're the village hero, and you get elected comfortably. And we're just seeing it across the globe, not just in Kenya.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Actually, there's a clip that I was listening where PLO was saying that Africa is a very interesting continent. Sense that the people, despite that Moi was president for 24 years. So what Kenyans don't know and don't realize is that sometimes we clap our hands and make people heroes when they mess up with our economy, not realizing that we are actually the ones who are going to suffer in the process. And at the end of the day, you have a scenario where it's a collapsed economy. You have things going south. You have no jobs being created. Our young people are getting out of college without employment. Now this, but what happens? It means we are adding to the overwhelmingly going themselves.
I'll ask you to hold that thought.
Okay.
Well, you remember this evening we're asking you, what do you after SMS 20 KBC? We will be looking to hear from you, Jared Okello. We also Welcome back. If you're joining us, you're watching Beyond the Headlines. Our focus of discussion this evening, the renewed fight against graft. So it's time for us to hear your feedback before we continue with our discussion. So let's go over to Jane, who is on the other side of the studio, to get to hear what you have to say. Jane, what feedback do you have for us this evening?
All right, before we
The agency.
Okay.
Otherwise, they are waiting to use the same monies to fight in courts of law. They will ultimately perhaps lose, go to jail, spend another 15 years, come back and recover the old monies and start running around like headless chicken in town.
Mahmoud, is out-of-court settlement the best way to go?
Well, it depends what are the terms of settlement. If that person is going to give that, for example,